What's going on, guys? It is me, Tyson the Trainer, back with another video / podcast for you all based on where you guys are watching. Hope you have been having a good, well, it's Monday. Hope you're off to a good start to a Monday, right? Now, today's podcast, I want to talk to you about all the things that I have, I guess, been wrong and changed my mind about, right? Over the last maybe year, just over a year, like 18 months. Because there are a lot of things that I, do differently now in regards to what I used to teach. And it's just because, education, science, learning from people above me, and also just having more of an open mind. Yeah, I guess open mind is what you would say. And it's funny, right? Because, the way that I come across, I do come off quite, I don't think I come off arrogant, but people think I come off arrogant. I think I can come off like, quite cocky, confident type of thing, right? But it's funny because a lot of people don't like me for that, for the way that I come across, telling things the way they are and just having hard truths. And people are like, oh, he's, fucking Tyson the Trainer. All he does is just, he's never wanting to change his mind, blah, blah, blah. And it's funny that people think this about me, that I'm so stuck in a certain way, yet when I'm proven wrong, I will admit I'm wrong, even though I hate to admit I'm wrong, I love being right. It's fucking good for my ego. But when I'm wrong, I will admit I'm wrong. Or when I change my mind, I will admit it, because no matter what, like, my ego, no matter what my ego would love, it doesn't serve you guys, it doesn't serve my clients, it doesn't serve my followers, it doesn't serve anyone else except for me. And that's pretty fucking selfish when you think about it, right? Because my job is to help people be fitter, healthier, understand nutrition, get in a better mindset overall. And so for me to stay in, to be so one-sided, to be, not change my mindset, to have a closed mind is not going to be helpful. And so, I may come across a certain way, but if I'm told wrong, or if someone, if science shows different, or if I change my mind, I'm never afraid to admit that I'm wrong. And I'll be the first person to admit it. Because again, it serves you guys more than it serves me. And plus, now I get to be right again, because I fucking hate being wrong. And so when I can say, all right, actually, this is the actual truth, and now I'm right, cool, And also in saying that, that's what, I guess, in a way, science is too. Science is continuously evolving. We're always having things coming out with research that will change our approach with certain things. And this is how we got to where we are today. We have a hypothesis, we carry out an experiment to see if that hypothesis holds true. And then if the hypothesis does hold true, we then repeat the experiment. So we see if we can repeat it multiple times. And if it can be repeated multiple times, then we know that hypothesis is now basically a truth, right? And a perfect example of this, just to give you guys an example of how we progressed over time, was the way we eat. Flexible dieting never used to be a thing. It was all about, you have to eat clean, you have to eat, which is obviously an important thing, but it's like, eat your chicken, eat your broccoli, eat the basic stuff, and you will lose weight, Or it used to be, obviously it was Weight Watchers counting points and shit like that. Or there was, the keto diet. The funny thing is, it's trending now. The keto diet trended in the fucking 90s, And so it was cut out carbohydrates and you're going to lose weight. And as research has gone on, we found out carbohydrates is not the enemy. We found out you can lose weight regardless of, your insulin being spiked. You can lose weight and not have to cut out carbohydrates. You can actually lose weight eating McDonald's if you wanted to, because we figured out about macronutrients, Science has kind of known this, but the general population has figured out about this, right? And so again, that's just what science is. And there's going to be research coming out continuously showing us new things. To a degree, there are things we just know for facts, We don't really need to, there's not much more science that's going to come out about what's the best weight loss diet, because we've figured out the law of thermodynamics, Energy can't be created nor destroyed, it just gets transferred. So we know that no matter what, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, no matter what you follow, you will lose body weight. We know that as a fact. And so there's not going to be a lot of research coming out about that, because we know, hormones aren't stopping body fat. Insulin's not stopping body fat being lost. What else? Carbohydrate isn't stopping body fat being lost. So we don't need to really keep doing research in it. There still will be studies coming out just to confirm, again, can we repeat the results that we've gotten in the past, can we keep repeating them to get the same results, to know that we're on the same track and to confirm a hypothesis? Hopefully that makes sense for you guys. That's science, which is cool because, again, there's definitely biases there, which people want things to be true. And sometimes the science, the way that people do something to get to the answer may not be, ethical or right, but that's also why we have peer review to look at those type of things, okay? So I just wanted to kind of get that out of the way to explain science and why we should be changing as we grow or as we learn as a species and as ourselves, as we are exposed to new information. And if that information is factually correct, we grow as a person when we learn, And it's like it comes down to people thinking you have to make a certain amount of money every year to save money. You have to make whatever you're making now. You might have this mindset where you're nah, I can't save money. Every dollar goes to this, blah, I just have no chance. But then you go and see, let's say you go and see your financial advisor, and he looks at everything you're spending and everything you're earning. And he goes, oh, do you realize you're spending $40 on Netflix a month? And you're like, oh, no, I actually didn't think about that. And he's like, oh, you're actually spending $70 on coffee a week. Let's say $70 on coffee a week. I could spend $70 on coffee a week, which is what? 2.5 coffees a day now, because coffee's fucking expensive. He picks out all these things, and he's like, hey, actually, you can save money. And he's just opened your mindset. And you're like, oh, shit. Yeah, I can. And then all of a sudden, you're able to save money. So you have this one thought in your head or belief, and then when someone has opened up your mind to think about something else in a different way, someone from an outside perspective, you then change your mind. And you're like, I can save money. And that's okay. We change our minds based on what the evidence shows us or something that's opened our mindset. So continuous growth is a good thing. And that's why, again, when I'm proven wrong, it's okay. For me, I'm like, all right, well, you know what? I thought this was right, and I'm clearly fucking wrong. And it goes back to not helping anyone but myself if I stay in this certain dogmatic mindset. So I will change my opinions over time. And so to give you guys just a bit of an overview about things I changed just in the, the way I talk now, if you guys knew me years ago, you would be like, what the fuck, this guy's a completely different person. Because I used to be the guy that said intermittent fasting was everything. You need to intermittent fast, you need to do this. I used to be the guy who said, you need to eat all organic. You need to have no bad food, basically. I was that fucking clean eating intermittent fasting guy, and it's because I had a fucked up relationship with my food, but that was my belief. And then when I educated myself about nutrition, I changed that belief. And I could have definitely been like, nah, fuck, no calories, no way, man. It's all about intermittent fasting. It's all about the autophagy. It's all about the fucking hormones. But guess what? I had to change my mind because I learned about the science. I learned about the research. And I had to have that open mindset to change. Otherwise, I'd still be stuck in my ways talking about intermittent fucking fasting, And so I've come from there of super strict, clean eating only, intermittent fasting of an 18 hours of not eating a day and only having black coffee, to go into, we can flexible diet. We can enjoy things in our life. We can eat breakfast and still lose weight, And so that's one huge thing that I changed. Another thing was, the way that I train clients in their nutrition education, and also how I am as a coach. When I was young, typical 18, 19-year-old, I would be like, every time I talk to a client in the gym, oh, what, you can't make time to meal prep? You can't track your macros? You can't fucking, you're going out on the weekend and drinking and having fun? Oh, why can't you just commit? Here's me, a single 19-year-old living in a fucking, house share, working as a PT, having all the freedom in the world, having all the time in the world to be able to meal prep, to be able to do all those things. And I'm telling a fucking mum of 3 kids, oh, you should be meal prepping. You should be tracking your macros. You should be, doing these things. Why can't you? Why can't you? And never really having any type of empathy or understanding about their lifestyle and setting high expectations for them, to which I've changed now with where I meet people where they're at and what path they're on and where their life is, So it's like, Do I still try and encourage people to meal prep? Obviously, yes. Do I try and get people to track their calories? Yes, so they can understand what's in food, but I do not make it a hard and fast rule. And I do not get upset if a client can't stick to it, because again, I need to meet them where they're at. And that means if their life is hectic and example, I've got a client who's traveling. She literally is traveling every week because she works for the government. They fly her all over the place. So I've just got to work with her where she's at. I'm not going to make her track her fucking calories when she's going out for client lunches and be like, you better weigh and track that. I'm not going to make her meal prep because she can't meal prep. So I meet her where she's at. And that's probably been the biggest thing that I changed in my coaching, not being so rigid with my rules and instead being flexible based around the client. So there's just a few things that have changed over the years. But in the last 18 months, I think, again, just some growth from me, mindset changes, and things that I have, changed my opinion on. I think you guys, you might want to hear it. So the first thing I have changed my opinion on is the amount of protein you need, right? Now, there's heaps of information out there, heaps of research that now shows this. For the most part, you can get away with less than 2 grams per kilogram of protein per kilogram of body weight. Sorry. I used to try and make everyone eat at least 2 or 2.2 grams per kilogram. And I thought that if they didn't hit that, they're going to lose their muscle mass. They're going to lose their gains. Oh, nah, you're fucking losing it. No, shouldn't be doing that. Make sure you hit your protein. Well, guess what? I've changed my opinion on that. I still recommend having 2 grams, ideally, if you can. But the range shows from 1.5 grams per kilo all the way up to 2.2 grams per kilogram body weight. So now when a client is starting off with me, I give them a range of protein to go through. And I start at the 1.8 grams per kilogram mark, okay? If they hit the 1.5 grams, I'm not fussed about it. However, in saying that, I still encourage people to eat more protein than less protein, simply because protein is quite satiating, which means it keeps you fuller for longer. It does have a higher chance of maintaining muscle mass when you're in a deficit and you're having a little bit extra protein overall. Pardon me. And it's also just like a good foundation of your meal, having lower amounts of protein in a meal and then choosing more food that may be carbohydrate or fat rich. Well, fats are more calorie dense in general. So that means you may have lower volume. Or again, just to make it an overall satisfying meal, if we were to go off 1.5 grams per kilogram, and let's say you're 70 kilos, that's like 100 grams of protein a day, And that's like, if you spread that out, that's like what, 30 grams over, or 33 grams basically, over 3 meals or less than that. It'd be like, 25 grams, or 27 grams or something, over 4 meals. 25 grams, sorry. Yeah, 25 grams over 4 meals. That's not a lot of protein. And so you may be left quite hungry, which is why I'd still recommend getting between 1.8 and 2.2. So instead of having a very specific protein number, I've changed to give people protein ranges, right? That's the first thing. Secondly, macros, tracking macros. I like to give everyone a protein, a calorie goal, a protein, a carbohydrate, and a fat goal. And this is probably, I reckon the 18-month mark is where I started to change my mind on this, and this just came through education, is that macros specificity does not fucking matter the least, right? For anyone who is not an athlete, this also includes you who's training with weights, you're not an athlete. An athlete is someone who is doing, longer endurance events. So like a soccer player, a footy player, an endurance runner, a cyclist, a fighter, those type of people. People who are doing multifaceted sports, I guess you would say. You're doing some type of sport outside of weight training, basically, okay? I don't say powerlifters are an athlete. I don't say bodybuilders are an athlete, okay? The reason I don't say this, that they're an athlete, is simply because you have picked one sport, which is weight training, to do, right? And you're not doing anything outside of that. Because when we look up what an athlete is, if I'm going to look up on athlete meaning on Google, all right, a person who is proficient in sports and other forms of physical exercise, okay, and other forms. So if you're someone who's a bodybuilder, okay, and you're doing something, so let's say you're proficient in the sport of bodybuilding, cool. What else are you doing? Because if you're just bodybuilding and doing your steps, you're not an athlete, all right? If you're bodybuilding and let's say you do cardio 3 times a week, then I'd probably put you in the athlete category, So it's doing something that's not just your sport, all right? Powerlifters, what do? They just fucking lift heavy weights. Most of them don't do cardio, or they do a tiny bit of cardio. So that's why I'm like, if you're an athlete, then it matters. But having a different type of carbohydrate intake, or having a specific amount of carbohydrate intake for someone who just wants to look better overall, or you want to gain a little bit of muscle and lose some fat, or you do not take this 100% seriously, where you're not trying to get on stage, you do not need to worry about specific macro recommendations. And it actually causes more rigidity, and it makes it more stressful with your overall eating practices versus having a calorie goal and a protein goal and a minimum fat intake, Like for me, that's been a big change, and it's made my clients so much more adherent, less stressed, have more flexibility in their diet, and get more results overall, okay? Because, again, eating, let's say, for example, you're on 2,500 calories a day, okay? You have a specific carbohydrate, fat, and protein goal. It gets to the end of the day, and somehow, you're playing your fucking macro Tetris, and you're like, oh, I've only got 2 grams of fat, 50 grams of carbs, and 16 grams of protein, all right? And then you just make some fucking weird concoction meal to specifically hit your macros just because you think you have to, when there is no evidence showing that it's going to have any impact on body composition. So you're stressing, you're playing macro Tetris, you're letting this consume your life for no fucking reason, And again, because I did it when I was younger and learning about macros and stuff, I thought I had to teach my clients to do it. But then upon getting educated, I changed my mindset, and guess what? Didn't change anything. First, I tried it on myself. I was like, all right, you know what? I'm not going to worry about my carbohydrate or my fat intake. I'm going to make sure I have my calories, my protein, and a minimum fat intake, enough for hormone function and stuff like that. And apart from that, I was like, I'll just see how it goes. And I did it for 2 months, right? And I tracked my body composition, and I kept my calories the same. And guess what? Nothing changed. Surprise, fucking surprise. And you guys have seen me diet earlier this year. I'm about 9% body fat. Guess what? 9% body fat, tracking calories and protein, not worrying about fucking my specific eating within 5 grams or 10 fucking grams of a carbohydrate or a fat, because there's no point, all right? So again, if you are someone who is getting extremely lean, if you're a male, under 9%. If you're a female, under 19%. Then you might want to focus on being more specific. Again, even with me at 9% body fat, all right, I didn't do it. And so it's like, if I can maintain a very good physique, which I think is good, to be able to maintain that, and not have to worry about my specific, macronutrient intakes, that just goes to show you can maintain quite a lean physique without having to focus on that stuff. If you want to be in the best condition possible and step on stage, then yes, you do have to go to those specificities. But those of you who are listening, I don't think any of you listening are going to be stepping on stage. I don't assume so. If you're a professional bodybuilder or comp prepper, you'll be listening to that versus me. So for you who's looking for overall health, my opinion has changed on that. Calories, protein, minimum fat intake. Let the calories lie wherever they lie for the rest of them. And that just makes your life so much more easier. And again, it gives my clients more flexibility overall. It gives them the freedom to not feel like they're trapped to only eat a specific amount of food. And plus, it helps educate them to see that they do not need to be as rigid to get results. Because the hardest thing is rigidity, and being restricted and restrained. People will fall off track when they have, don't think about a pink elephant. What do you think about a pink elephant? You can't have more than 60 grams. You can't have more than 160 grams of carbohydrates a day. You go to like 165 grams and you're like, oh fuck. I went over my carbs today and didn't hit my fat goals, as if something's going to fucking happen, And so I'm so glad that I changed my mindset on that, because again, I've had coaches in the past who encouraged me to eat within 5 and 10 grams. And it was like, all right, I'll do it. And I followed it because I'm someone who's very numbers and, that type of focused. But it was just like, why? Okay, so I thought doing that would give me better results, but it didn't. So it's like I'm spending extra time and mental energy focusing on this when there's no benefit to me physique-wise. energy wise, you know, anything. There's no benefit to it. So it's like, what the fuck am I wasting my time for? You know, we want to put in the minimum of investment and get the maximum return. Okay. So that's definitely something I change my mind about. So again, don't worry about you fucking eating within 5 or 10 grams or even 15 grams. It doesn't matter. Calories, protein, minimum fat intake. Minimum fat intake should be 0.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, okay? So wherever the rest of your calories lie, then it doesn't matter. And remember, a minimum fat intake. It's not maximum. You can go over a minimum. You know when they say, like, you know, for example, your maximum is 60 Ks an hour. If you go over 60 Ks an hour, you will be fined, okay? Right? Does that make sense? I hope so. Obviously, we know the speed limit. But it doesn't say a minimum. Like, you know, if it said minimum 60, you could fucking go faster than 60. But if you went slower than 60, then it's an issue, you know? Minimum intake is 0.6 grams per kilogram of body weight, all right? Ideally, just aim for 1 gram per kilogram for your fats, okay? So if you did 2 grams per kilogram for protein, roughly 1 gram per kilogram for fat, you're in a sweet spot, and the rest of your calories go wherever they want, okay? Again, minimum 0.6 grams. Just aim for 1 gram. What else should I change my mindset on? Cardio. Cardio has been a huge thing for me. Like, I was so against cardio, and that I used to just shit on anyone who did cardio, you know? I'm like I used to think I had this fucking mentality probably about 3 years ago now, whereas like, oh man, like, you know, anyone who didn't train with weights and anyone who did anything else was just an idiot, you know? I just felt like I was a fucking, you know, superior, the alpha, you know? I'm training with weights. Oh, look at this guy cycling. Look at this guy doing this. If, you know, you got to do weight training. And it was just a stupid mentality to have. And then I thought, obviously, cardio is going to kill my gains and fucking all these things. And then, obviously, with research showing that cardio does not kill your gains as long as you can separate it. But also just like, you know, the ignorance that I had that me doing steps and weight training was enough just for overall health, and in a way neglecting my cardiovascular fitness, you know? It's like, oh no, I train weights and I do my steps. That's enough cardio. You know, steps helps my heart and my cardiovascular routine, my cardiovascular health. Not really, you know, it does, but cardio is good for you. And I'm actually like, I've turned into a big advocate of cardio, to be honest. And not like, oh, you have to do it, but we have the foundation of steps and weight training. I always just say that's our foundation, because cardio is like the cream on the top, you know? Because weight training is really good for you in the long term. It's good for joint health. It's good for bone health. It's good for, you know, having muscle is good for you metabolically. It's healthy for you. So I always try and say, you know, let's aim for your steps. Let's aim for your weight training sessions first. Then if you have time and you want to do some type of cardio, I recommend it highly, because it's great, again, for overall cardiovascular health. And I think also the thing with that is the difference between health and, I don't want to say health and fitness, but a lot of people will look at someone's physique and be like, they're fit or healthy, you know? And we forget what health actually is, you know? Health, when you go and get a checkup at the doctor, your blood panel, like, you know, you go into a blood check, what's it called? A checkup at the doctor, fuck me dead. You go and do a checkup at a doctor, if everything checks out, all your bloods are in check, your cholesterol's good, your iron's good, your vitamin B, your B12, iron, vitamin D, all those things are good. Amazing. Your blood pressure's good. You've got a low resting heart rate. All those things are great. Fantastic, you know? And that's what we should be aiming for health-wise, you know? And then it's like, with that comes a combination of being active, weight training, cardio, steps, and eating well. That's what healthy is. Just because someone fucking looks amazing doesn't mean they're healthy, you know? I looked good when I was at 95, okay? I was like pretty, you know, I was like, oh yeah, I look pretty fucking good. Not like amazing, but like you look at you be like, this guy lifts. And I thought I looked good. Looking at my blood pressure was fucking high, man. And that was because of my ADHD medication too. But it's like my weight had a factor to do with that. I reduced my weight down to 88, where I am now. My blood pressure is way better. It's it doesn't go over 125 over 60, which is fucking awesome. My overall cardiovascular health is better, which means I can run for a fucking bus or I can push harder in the gym because my cardiovascular health isn't being taxed because I'm actually taking care of my cardiovascular health. And overall, I'm sleeping better too, just because I have less weight on me overall. So, cardiovascular health is such an important thing. And again, I used to be someone who shits on it, yet I changed my mind, So if you are someone who just thinks weight training and steps are the end all be all and you're neglecting your cardiovascular health, you're an idiot, okay? If you don't have the time because you are someone who's normal, who works a full-time job, who can only train a certain amount of times a week and do their steps, that's okay, all right? Remember, it's the cream on the top. But if you do have the time, I would recommend it. And remember, that doesn't just mean running. It can be running, swimming, cycling, cross trainer, assault bike, fucking rower, whatever you want to do. I don't care. Just something that raises the heart rate a little bit and, that I want to say that you enjoy, but I guess is tolerable. Like I personally enjoy cardio and I love the fucking endorphin rush it gives me. Like for the first time ever, I ran 13 Ks on the weekend. I have had shin issues for like 2 years. I don't know why. Sometimes my shins are just great. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to run. And I was like, and I actually enjoy running outside because running on a treadmill, like shoot me fucking down, man. Just break my legs. I do not want to run on a treadmill. I'll look down. I'm like, okay, it's 2 minutes. I'm still running. I'm like, fuck, man, it must be like 7 minutes now. And it's like 2 minutes 20. I'm like, what the fuck? But if I'm outside, I can just keep running and running because I'm listening to some good music. I'm seeing some good scenery. And like I smashed 13 Ks within an hour. Never done that in my life. Never ran that far, never ran that fast, never hit that distance. And I was like, my endorphins for like that whole day were just peaking hard. Like I was feeling so good, which I don't get from weight training. I don't get an endorphin rush from weight training. And I enjoy cardio because it's good for my overall health, like I said. It's good for a mental benefit for the endorphin hit that I get, I guess you would say. And it just changes things up. I do my boxing. And then I do running, and then I do the assault bike. So I just keep things changing. It's probably because of my ADHD too. I like to have different modalities to go through, but I like getting a sweat on too, And so it's just something that I've changed. So I was always like team weights, weights are the fucking best. I train more cardio than I do weights now, right? I train weights 4 days a week. I still love weight training, but having different modalities of cardio has just been something that I've enjoyed more too. And again, like I could have been like, nah, fucking cardio, man, gotta kill your gains. Nah, the research is bullshit. But I got proven wrong. And again, I was someone who said, don't do cardio, it ruins your gains. I was fucking wrong, So there's that. So what have we said? Cardio, macros, protein, day on a plate. Day on a plate is something I've very much changed my mind about. Day on a plate's probably been training for like 6 months, 8 months, probably longer. But I've noticed it really coming up in the last few months. And I used to just be like, oh, fucking look at these day on a plates. No one wants to see a day on a plate. No one wants to see this shit. I was wrong. I say no one wants to see it because I didn't want to see it, right? But just because I didn't want to see it doesn't mean that other people don't. And I think a day on a plate does a lot of good for a lot of people, but it also does a lot of shit things for a lot of people. However, on a whole, I think it's a positive, especially for people who follow me. I think I've done a good job in explaining eating like an adult, eating your daily habits, ticking off the boxes and stuff like that. And so I think day on a plates are great because it now gives people, especially my followers who look at a day on a plate, for them to critically think about, is this a good day on their plate or not? So if a client who trains with me sees someone's day on their plate and they're like, what the fuck? There's like no veggies in this person's meal. That's great because now a client can see, oh, this person's missing their veggies, or this person's missing their fruit, or they only had one piece of fruit a day, or, oh, it doesn't look like they're getting enough protein. And so, having that education of knowing how to eat like an adult and eating daily habits then allows you to decide whether someone's day on their plate is good or not. But also, it gives you ideas for different types of foods, And I was always like, oh, fuck, no one wants to see it, blah, blah. It's always the same shit. People give some cool snack ideas and cool recipes and stuff like that, which I think is an awesome thing. And again, like I said, that's a positive, giving people recipe ideas, letting people see how their day of eating is, but then also with the people who are now educated about what they should be eating, it gives them a good idea about what they should be avoiding, and if they actually should be following someone who they think is teaching well or whatever it is, but then discovering the fucking person eats like a child, or like a, can't even fucking eat their fruits and vegetables. And then it gets someone to critically think about, should they be following that person? Which is amazing, because again, my biggest thing is education being a key, and avoiding people who are just spreading misinformation or incorrect information. And when you can now make that decision whether it's someone you still want to follow or not, it's because you're more educated. So I think donor plates are great, again, for meal ideas, for recipes, to see how to include the people who do teach about good daily habits and stuff like that. If you follow a day on a dietitian's plate, right? You'll always see them including fruits, including vegetables, including whole grains, including protein, including all the good shit. And so you can learn from those people who are teaching the good habits, and avoid the people who you look at and you're like, this person's only having fucking one piece of fruit a day. Lauren Simpson, people like that. So it gives you a good idea about who to avoid and who to follow. So I'm a fan of them, changed my mind about that. What else would I have changed my mind about that I'm trying to think? I guess... yeah, I think I would still say, the whole training side of things. I expected people to train as many times as they can in a week. And even myself, again, used to train weight training 6 days a week. You can make really good results between 3 to 5 sessions a week of weight training. And more does not equal better. I used to think, all right, well, I'm doing 6 days a week, I must be able to grow more. Doesn't mean shit. What matters most is getting into the gym, stimulating your muscles enough to work them, to break them down, to help them build up, but also not just slamming yourself with as many days as possible and the amount of volume. I was like, I just want to train 6 days. I just want to train 6 days. I just want to push it to the limit. When I could have made the exact same results doing 5 days and giving more intensity to those training sessions, because the more days you train with weights, the harder the intensity becomes. Okay? If you have 3 days and you're like, I know I've got to really give it all these 3 days, you can have some really good training sessions on the 3 days. And, with the intent of going in there and giving it the energy it needs to be able to push yourself. Okay? If you are doing 6 days, you then have to expect 6 out of 7 days for you to turn up, be on point, be consistent, progressively overload on 6 days versus 3 days, or 6 days versus 5 days. And every time you add in an extra session, it does get a little bit harder to keep the intensity up, but also extra sessions don't equal extra results, Again, I could have trained 4 or 5 days and probably gotten the exact same fucking results that I would have got out of 6 days, And so we do not need more to achieve more. And that's also something I've been able to understand now is maintaining what you've got does not require as much effort and intensity as you did to get the results. So when you are at a certain body composition, wherever you are right now, if you reach something, you can keep that, maintain that quite easily, probably easier than you think. 3 days of weight training a week and not having to push it more than you're used to. So if you can squat 100 kilos for 10 reps, all right? If you can keep that strength no matter what, ideally you want to, slowly go up. But if you were to just do 3 days a week and you just kept that squat at 100 kilos for 10 reps, you are maintaining exactly where you are right now. And which means when life gets hectic, you don't have to progressively overload, and you can maintain on a lower amount of volume, lower intensity, and just rocking up, doing what you need to do, which is the bare minimum to maintain the results you've got. So maintenance is a lot better than being able to, maintenance is a lot easier than you would think to maintain what you've got. And I used to think, you have to keep pushing, you have to keep training hard, you have to always go harder. And it's like, no, you can get away with it. Which is cool because life does get hectic. We're human, things fucking come up. And it's like, when things come up, if you can't push as hard, all right, as long as you do the bare minimum 2 to 3 times a week, as long as you're able to still use the same weight you did, you're going to maintain muscle mass and physique exactly how it is. And you may not feel like it. You may be like, oh, I'm not fluffy. Oh, I'm losing muscle mass. I feel flabby, blah, blah, blah. It's just because you haven't got a good pump in, You give one day where you get a good pump and a good training session, you'll be like, oh shit, there's still definition there. It all still looks good, and it will remind you. So you do not need the same amount of work required to maintain the results that you've got there that you've gotten to achieve there. Does that make sense? So if you put in, I'm trying to think. I think you guys know what I'm saying, but like obviously I'm trying to get this point across. Let's say it requires a 10 out of 10. Let's just say 10 out of 10, okay? It requires 10 out of 10 to get to where you are right now. It required 10 out of 10 effort, let's say. But now it requires a 6 out of 10 effort to maintain, all right? Much easier to be able to maintain, which is good because, again, life happens. What else? Banking calories is something I changed my mind about. So I used to let my clients bank calories all the time. Yeah, save calories for the weekend. Take 200 off a day, or if you overeat, undereat the next day. That was something that I did and was not to my advantage. Like fucking bad mindset, mind you. Just an unhealthy mindset of binge eating and restricting. And I would push that on to clients. Oh well, if you overate, you better undereat the next day. And I've completely changed my mind about that. Do not recommend banking calories. Do not recommend saving calories. Do not recommend compensating calories if you overeat one day, because that is just a bad mentality to be in and not a healthy mindset, because it does teach a binge restrict mentality. So definitely change your mind about that, which I wouldn't recommend you guys do. And if you're like, oh, but I want to have a social event, I want to save some calories. If you in any way have had any food issues, I would not recommend it. If you haven't had any food issues, you might be able to get away with it. But again, saving calories for the weekend is not worth the lack of recovery, the lack of intensity you can push in the gym, the hunger, all those things. It's not worth it. Just to be able to eat a little bit more on the weekend, And that's why we have certain periods of time where we want to diet, certain periods of time where we want to maintain. And when we do diet, we just make the trade-off of not going out to socialize and go fucking as ham as much, So that's an easy, I guess, mindset change. And again, a lot of you may be like, oh, but I like saving calories. I like doing whatever. All right. If it works for you and you're not overeating and you're not binging and you're able to still lose weight, sweet. But for a majority of people, they can't fucking do it. Everyone seems to struggle on the weekend. And when they save the calories for the weekend, what do they end up doing? Blowing the fuck up on the weekend and going way over their calories anyway. So it's like, what was the point in that? So I'm not a fan of banking or restricting calories. What else have I changed? Again, a lot of things, a lot of mindset changes happen over time. And in the last 18 months, that's why I just think I've become a better coach and practitioner, just because I've learned to figure out what the bare minimum is my clients need to get results. And the less they can focus on all that stuff, the higher the chance they have of succeeding. And if they have a higher chance of succeeding, that's a win, I guess the daily habits on the 18th, that'll probably be my last thing, to be honest. The daily habits and eating like an adult. I used to give clients, again, macros and calories, and then just be like, as long as it fits your macros, as long as it's, as long as that's it. And I never took into account a fruit minimum target, a veggie minimum target, all these things that it wasn't until I went through, it was after SNA. Actually, no. I went through Sports Nutrition Australia. I went through the IOPN to get my graduate diploma. And no one really talked about that shit. It was more about sports nutrition, obviously. But even in my nutrition courses, no one really covered what you just should be eating in a day. And Mackenzie Baker actually fucking, helped me change my mindset on this when he started talking about, the Australian dietary guidelines and shit like that. And I was like, it was so simple. And but I was like, how the fuck did I not think about this? The Australian dietary guidelines, or any dietary guidelines, based on where you are in the world, have been made up to help prevent deficiencies, get adequate nutrients in, and be overall health focused in your nutrition. And so, again, it was like an epiphany. It's so simple, but I didn't think about it. And that has been one thing, again, you guys know now all I talk about, eat like an adult, all this type of shit. It's something I didn't teach a year and a half ago. And again, this has been something else that's been really beneficial for my clients, because guess what? When you follow the daily habits and you eat like an adult, your hunger gets reduced. Your satiety is increased, which means fullness overall. You have regular digestion. You feel better because you're getting enough nutrients in. You're making up for any deficiencies you could have. It's basically like a fucking cheat sheet, being able to, what's the word I'm trying to think of? It's a cheat sheet for being able to get results and not having to track your food or any of that type of stuff. Not so much I guess a cheat sheet, but again, just teaching you what healthy habits are And again, that's improved my adherence with clients versus being like, yeah, if it just fits your macros, then it doesn't matter. Like I should be like to people, oh, who cares about brown rice? Just have white rice because they're the same calories and it doesn't matter. Well, you know, if you want overall health, good digestion, fiber is required. And fiber from brown rice is higher than fiber from white rice. And that's beneficial, you know? Or it's like, oh, who cares? Just have your white bread. Who cares about fucking wholemeal? But again, like, you know, these things are just mindset changes that I've had because I think also the way that I've thought about myself, you know, it's not for me. I keep saying this, like, it's not for me. It's for you guys at the end of the day. And because that is my overall purpose, you know, to be a coach and to help people, that means that I have to think selflessly, right? And think about how does it apply to you guys? How does it improve people's success? Because I could just say just flexible diet, but it wouldn't get people, well, it would get people results, sorry, but it may not get them the results they want or have the adherence they want because they don't know about eating veggies, fruits, fiber, and all those things. So, you know, eating like an adult and daily habits has been very beneficial for my clients and like just overall health for me too, you know, making sure, because like I've never been someone who had an issue with eating their veggies or their fruit. Like I always ate fruit and veggies and stuff like that. But just knowing that like I am doing these on a daily basis for my overall health to get my nutrients in, it's just a different type of mindset too, you know? So that is basically, you know, most of the things that I think I can think off the top of my head that I've changed my mind about in the last 18 months. And I hope you guys, you know, if things change in the future, I will obviously let you guys know. But I guess like the biggest thing here is, again, you know, this is what progress is with education and changing your mind and being okay to change your opinion on things. And also for the coaches listening, not being so dogmatic or stuck in our ways. Because again, you know, people think, oh, fucking Tyson never wants to change his mind, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, I will change my mind as soon as I'm proven I'm wrong. Or again, I could sit on something for a while and change my mindset about it for it to be more and I'm like, oh shit, actually, you know what? In this scenario or in this, it's probably better. And again, if I can change that and it benefits people, then that's a fucking win. Who am I to save my own ego because I'm fucking arrogant, you know? And that's why I like to say, I don't think I'm arrogant. I think I'm cocky, I think I'm confident, but I'm not arrogant. Haha. Hopefully that makes sense. Anyways, guys, if you enjoyed the podcast, please share it on Instagram. Make sure you tag me because I love to see that you guys do enjoy it. And until next time, just a little hint for the next podcast, we're going to be talking about female menstrual cycles, which I've talked about before, but more along the lines of females who have lost their menstrual cycle and how to get it back. So until next time, my friends, I will speak to you then.